This man clearly possesses immortality and the ability to regenerate quickly. Even so, he chooses to survive on the brink of death day after day in a dump, all because he was born with an abnormal constitution. Because of this, he was taken to a research institute and kept captive for a full 10 years, where every day felt like hell. Even after escaping and returning to the outside world, everyone instinctively kept their distance when they saw how he looked now. But today he finally found the one person who reached out to him. The girl who, during their first encounter, treated him by offering him dog food. It turns out that in this world there is something called a special heart, a mutation that occurs in an extremely small number of people. These people can use their mutant hearts to unleash extraordinary powers and are called heart mutants. When Kim Jin escaped from the research institute to throw off the guards, he ended up grabbing a high-voltage cable with his bare hands. He let the violent current surge through his entire body because the ability his heart had given him was immortality. For him, being captured again was worse than death. Even though the world calls this kind of power a divine blessing, Kim Jin saw it only as a curse, since it was that mutant heart that put him in this situation. At that moment, he was rummaging through a pile of trash looking for something to eat, until he found a piece of bread that had just been thrown away. He grabbed it right away and stuffed it into his mouth, starving. Suddenly, a puppy appeared next to him, wagging its tail and looking at him. He could only break the bread in half and share it with the dog, which immediately lowered its head and started eating. Soon, a whole group of stray dogs gathered around Kim Jin, but then voices could be heard not far away. He thought the people from the institute had come looking for him, so he quickly hid and watched. However, what he saw were 3 thugs surrounding a high school girl, clearly with bad intentions. At that moment, Kim Jin noticed that the girl was carrying a bag of dog food in her arms. His heart raced. Had she come to feed the dogs? Then he stepped out and shouted for the 3 of them to stop. Seeing his miserable appearance, they started mocking him, asking where that dirty beggar had come from. But the moment they tore off the cloth covering his head, Kim Jin coldly said that he wasn't a beggar. When they saw his real face, the blonde guy screamed in terror and desperately backed away. Kim Jin pulled a bone out of his own body and ordered them to stop screaming and leave immediately, but before he could finish speaking, the 3 had already run away in a panic. The girl was still in shock and collapsed to the ground, thanking Kim Jin in a trembling voice. But the very next second, as she saw him approach, his face looked even more terrifying in the shadows. She panicked, closed her eyes, crossed her arms over her chest, and screamed for him not to come any closer. But Kim Jin didn't touch her. When she opened her eyes again, she noticed that his attention was on the dog food on the ground. He crouched down, grabbed a handful, and brought it to his mouth. The girl was paralyzed and weakly said that it was dog food. Only then did Kim Jin stop, apologized somewhat embarrassedly, and carefully asked if he could eat a little more. When she heard this, the fear on her face grew, since she hadn't expected the skeleton-like man to be able to speak. She screamed, got up, and ran out. Watching her run away, Kim Jin wasn't surprised. He just said quietly that it was as he expected. She had run away. Even so, he grabbed another handful of food and ate it. Thanks to her, at least he got to have a peaceful meal. But the girl didn't go far. She stayed hidden at the entrance of an alley, watching. When she saw how Kim Jin interacted with the dogs, she realized he wasn't a bad person. Then a terrifying thought crossed her mind. Could he be a heart mutant? She remembered the rumors and also how he had saved her. A strong feeling of guilt welled up inside her. After hesitating for a long time, she finally gathered her courage and approached him. She took a sandwich out of her backpack and, her voice slightly trembling, asked if he wanted something to eat. Kim Jin looked at her in disbelief and asked if it was for him. The girl confirmed and apologized for having run away earlier. Without thinking much about it, he took the sandwich. When he looked at the wrapper, his heart started racing. It was the first time since he had become like this that someone had willingly given him food. He recognized the wrapper. It was a brand he had seen countless times in the trash. When he took the first bite, he was completely stunned by the taste. He thought that flavor was like paradise. He never imagined that something could be so delicious to the point of making him lose control. The vegetables, the bread, the meat, everything tasted perfect, so delicious that even if he died right then, he wouldn't have any regrets. To him, the girl looked like an angel. Seeing how satisfied he was eating, she gently asked what she should call him. While chewing, he quietly replied that his name was Kim Jin. The girl smiled, said it was a pleasure to meet him, and introduced herself as Son Yeji. While petting the dogs, she asked why he was there. Kim Jin replied that he was being chased by a research institute and could only hide. Her smile faded and she asked incredulously if that was true. He confirmed it with a somber look. He said there was an institute specialized in capturing heart mutants and that they wanted to take him back. Her voice trembled as she said she had never heard of such a place and asked what they did to him. Kim Jin was silent for a moment before telling her, for 10 years he was subjected to deadly experiments and torture every day. They said they were testing new drugs and forced him to ingest poison to test transplant compatibility. They even went so far as to remove all his internal organs. Her face turned pale as she asked if he had really been tortured for 10 years. Kim Jin answered calmly but coldly that his heart brought him back to life. No matter how badly he was hurt, his body would regenerate. As he spoke, he adjusted the cloth on his head and said, with self-loathing and sadness, that was why he had become such a horrible monster. After that, he noticed that she kept looking at him. He felt even more uncomfortable and gripped the cloth tighter. But then she suddenly stood up and said they should forget about all that for now. Without giving him a choice, she firmly took his hand and pulled him along. Watching her back, Kim Jin felt his heart pounding and thought he never imagined someone would ever hold his hand again. He thought that if she kept acting like this, he would end up falling in love. But at that moment, an accident happened. She pulled his arm so hard that she ended up tearing it off. When she saw the severed hand, she screamed in terror, turning pale. She tried to quickly put the arm back on, but Kim Jin stayed calm and said it was okay. He explained that his body was sometimes like that, and if she put it in the right place, it would regenerate on its own. Only then did she calm down a little. After that, he asked where she was planning to take him. Sometime later, Kim Jin was already wearing new sports clothes and even a wig. She explained that this way he wouldn't attract attention since his clothes were so torn. She said that even though they were simple and cheap, they'd do for now. But for Kim Jin, that was already amazing. It felt unreal. Looking at the clothes, he said excitedly that it felt like getting a new skin, that the warmth was as if every hair had come back to life, and that these were the best clothes ever. She interrupted him, saying they still weren't done. She said his face still drew a lot of attention, and since he didn't have ears, he couldn't wear a mask, so she'd put makeup on him to help him blend in. With a final touch, she finished and said, a bit apologetically, that it was her first time putting makeup on Bones, so the result wasn't that great, but at least dangerous people wouldn't recognize him. Kim Jin softly said it was okay. He sincerely admitted that he really liked the clothes and makeup, but that warm moment didn't last long. Song Yiji checked the time and exclaimed that it was already late since she had to rush to class. She hurriedly said goodbye to Kim Jin and, before leaving, asked him to take care of the puppies. Watching Ji's figure walk away, Kim Jin silently repeated the name he had kept in his heart, Song Yeji. He lay down on the floor, letting the puppies pile up around him, but her request stirred something in his heart. Did that mean she would come back tomorrow? At the research institute, everyone treated him like an experiment. Even the people he ran into while on the run were frightened by his appearance and ran away. It was the first time anyone had treated him like a person. He petted the puppy and said with emotion that it was all thanks to him. If he hadn't found that dog, maybe he would have already left and never met Miss Song Yeji. After thinking for a bit, he gave the puppy the name Potato. The puppy licked his hand even more happily. He clearly liked the name a lot. An unprecedented warmth welled up in Kim Jin's chest, and he softly said that this was what it meant to be needed by someone. Jin had bought clothes for him, stayed by his side, and talked with him. The more he thought about it, the more he felt she was like an angel. A quiet hope rose in his heart. If he stayed there, he would surely be able to see her again. But the dampness beneath his body brought him back to reality. He immediately realized how naive he was being. He was being chased, and if he stayed there, he would also put Ji in danger. Kim Jin clenched his teeth and stood up, already determined. That was not a place where he should stay. He needed to go where he truly belonged. The next morning, he was unconscious next to a pile of garbage. A rat was crawling up his chest. He woke up startled and caught it right away. After catching his breath, he remembered that the night before, while walking, he had lost consciousness and ended up fainting in that filthy place. Soon, hunger set in, and he quickly searched his pocket. He pulled out a handful of dog food. He had been expecting this and had saved some earlier. To try to make it taste better, he thought that if he imagined it was a sandwich while eating, maybe the flavor would change. He separated the food by color, green like lettuce, yellow like bread, brown like meat, and swallowed it in big bites. Strangely enough, he managed to feel something like a sandwich. At that moment, a sudden bark echoed. He snapped back to reality and realized that all the food had already been eaten by Patata. He fell into despair and said that now he had nothing left to eat. The moment he said that, his body froze. He looked at Patata, full of doubt. How was the dog there? If Patata was there, then that meant... Before he could react, he heard that familiar voice he had been longing to hear. Ji appeared, asking why he had left without saying anything, saying she almost went crazy looking for him. At that moment, Kim Jin felt extremely grateful to have a skeleton face, since he wouldn't have been able to hide his expression otherwise. The moment Song Yeji appeared, the emptiness in his heart vanished instantly. She said she had been looking for him all day and only managed to find him by following his scent with the help of the dogs. She also said it was dangerous for him to wander around alone. Kim Jin could only manage to apologize in a low voice. He explained that if she stayed with him, she would end up being dragged into danger. But Ji just looked at him kindly and said she was happy to have found him. She said even the puppy was worried. Patata came over and licked his face, and that sudden warmth left him speechless. A little later, Song Yeji took all the food out of her backpack and spread it out on the ground. As she checked the bag, she gently said that since yesterday, he had only eaten a sandwich and hadn't been eating properly. That's why she had bought those things at the convenience store. She took a pack of cookies, opened it, and poured milk over him, smiling. She handed it to him and said it tasted really good that way. Kim Jin stood still, unable to believe what was happening. Without hesitation, he took a spoonful. The next moment, the flavor washed over his whole body. It was so delicious that tears welled up in his eyes. He asked Ji to try it too, but she just smiled, handed him a soda, and told him to try that instead. But the moment he took a sip of the drink, the stump of his left arm began to tremble and the bones started to regenerate. Jim was surprised and moved closer to get a better look. She asked if he always healed like this, little by little, and how long it would take for him to fully recover. Kim Jin replied that it would take several years. Ji was surprised, but he explained that was only based on X-feeding. If he absorbed a large amount of blood, he could recover quickly, but he had never mentioned it before because he was afraid of scaring her. He also said that this method was only possible at the research institute. Jin asked if the institute helped him recover. He answered coldly that no, they only treated him like an experiment. That's why they kept chasing him. No matter where he hid, he couldn't escape. Jin finally understood why he had left without saying anything. He also admitted that she was right. If she got involved with him, she would be in danger. He asked her to stop being nice to him, but Jai firmly replied that he had to go with her to the police station. Kim Jin said it wouldn't do any good, since they treat him like a monster and he'd already almost been shot by the police before. Then Ji said he didn't have to be afraid, because her older sister was a police officer and also a heart mutant. That left Kim Jin completely stunned. Even so, he didn't want to get his hopes up. Jin insisted that he trust her just this once, saying her sister was a good person. Kim Jin fell silent, looking at her as if the ice in his heart was finally starting to melt. At that moment, Ji said goodbye to the puppies, telling him to survive until a shelter came to get him. Batata barked in response. Kim Jin crouched down and thanked the puppy, saying he wouldn't run away like a coward anymore and that he'd come back to see him again. After that, he left with Song Yeji. It was the first time in 3 years on the run that someone had reached out a hand to help him. Seeing Song Yeji's kind smile, he started to think that maybe he could stop wandering and live like a normal person. But the moment hope appeared, it was destroyed by blinding headlights. A car sped toward them and hit Kim Jin, sending his body flying through the air before he crashed violently to the ground, his bones breaking. Before Ji could scream, a hand covered her mouth. One of the men held her tightly while ordering the others to capture Kim Jin. Before anyone could react, several men in black got out of the car with weapons and pinned him to the ground. The leader said they had finally found him and ordered them to take him away. Shortly after, 3 black vans sped down the road. In the rearview mirror, Kim Jin could be seen being dragged by the vehicle. His screams were swallowed up by the wind. His neck was tied with a thick rope and his body kept slamming against the asphalt. He screamed desperately as he tried to hold on to the ground, but it was useless. The bones in his fingers quickly wore down and bled as he was dragged along in desperation. He blamed himself for everything. Now, even Song Yeji had been captured by them. But no matter how much he struggled, the rope held tight, like a fate that couldn't be broken. He finally understood that with that cursed body and that useless power, he couldn't protect anyone or do anything. All he could do was beg, powerless, for someone to save him. At that moment, several shadows suddenly emerged from the forest at the edge of the road. They were the stray dogs from the dump. They lunged at the rope and bit it desperately, trying to break it. Soon after, the rope finally snapped with a sharp crack. The people in the vehicles quickly noticed, but only sent a van back. The dogs didn't back down. On the contrary, they stood in front of Kim, protecting him. The thugs with clubs got out of the van, cursing, and the man in front spat on the ground, growling angrily that those damn beasts dared to come back. Soon the sound of violent blows echoed. Kim Jin gathered all his strength and managed to turn around, seeing the thugs attacking the dogs with their clubs. The dogs didn't stand a chance against those weapons. Kim Jin gritted his teeth and started crawling forward. The dogs were bleeding right there and he needed to do something. But Tana bit one of the thugs on the leg and wouldn't let go. That's when Kim Jin remembered that damned mutant heart. If he absorbed the blood on the ground, even if it was just a little, he might be able to recover a bit. With the last of his strength, he crawled toward the blood, feeling as if needles were piercing his bones. But in the next instant, he saw Batata, who had been fighting desperately, collapse into the pool of blood, on the verge of death. His mind went blank, leaving only a deep pain. The dogs he had fed were lying around him. He called their names over and over, but only silence answered. That scene took him back to his 10 years in prison. Every morning he woke up in pain. What awaited him was not hope, but endless experiments. He was forced to receive blood from other people, had his organs removed while still alive, and suffered all kinds of torture. Day after day, year after year, the same despair repeated itself. Because of that mutant heart, even wishing for death became an impossible luxury. Fortunately, he managed to escape from the institute after a careful plan. When he regained his freedom, he naively thought the outside world would be a new beginning, but reality was cruel. Everyone feared and hated him because of his appearance. He was treated like a monster. Now, in that moment, his mutant heart was pounding violently, as if it was about to burst out of his chest. Throughout all his loneliness, only the dogs and Song Yiji had treated him like a human being. And now, even that small bit of warmth had been destroyed. The pain and rage he had suppressed for 13 years exploded all at once. The blood around him began to move and gather into his body. That monstrous body started to rebuild itself within that mass of blood, slowly returning to its human form. In an instant, his body was completely restored. He looked at the hand that had regenerated, feeling the blood flow again, as if he had returned to his childhood. But that also reminded him of the beginning of his nightmare. In the next moment, he realized the price of his recovery, the blood of the dogs. The three delinquents were terrified when they saw that scene. The bald guy tried to act tough and attack Kim Jin from behind, but he got punched in the face and was sent flying, passing out when he hit the van. Kim Jin, expressionless, just stared straight ahead. Kneeling in the blood, he held Batata, who was gravely injured, in his arms. In a cold voice, he said he knew the most painful ways to die and that the first one to answer could live. The criminals were paralyzed with fear. He demanded to know where they had taken Song Eiji. Meanwhile, 3 vans arrived at an abandoned warehouse. A woman with her head covered had her hood removed. It was Song Eiji. She didn't understand what was happening. Looking around, she saw several men with terrifying looks. Her face changed immediately. There was a stretcher up front where they were performing organ extractions. A man yanked her hair hard, threatening her. He told her to stay still if she wanted to live, since nobody there cared about lives. Those words almost made her collapse. Soon, the boss's phone rang. He answered, irritated, but got some absurd news. The dogs had broken the rope and the skeleton had turned into a human. The boss flew into a rage, not understanding anything. Song Yeji heard everything and started to suspect that the dogs had gone to save him. The boss, furious, smashed the phone and cursed his men, saying that if they didn't bring Kim Jin back, they'd be dead. Then he turned his attention to Song Yeji and demanded that she say where he was. Seeing that she didn't answer, he lost control and threatened to stab her. Song Yeji was shaken with fear. She had never been through anything so terrifying. Just as he was about to act, a figure suddenly appeared, throwing one of the men aside. Everyone was in shock. A young man in a t-shirt was standing there, and his mere presence was already intimidating. The boss didn't recognize him and had no idea that young man was actually Kim Jin. One of the henchmen approached him mockingly, but in the next instant he was grabbed by the neck. Kim Jin spoke in an icy voice, saying that because of them the dogs had died, and that he wasn't there to cause trouble but to kill them all. Two more henchmen stepped forward, and one of them managed to hit him, but it had no effect. To Kim Jin, that punch was nothing. He responded with a single punch, smashing the man's face. The man passed out on the spot and immediately lost consciousness. Another one saw an opportunity, grabbed Kim Jin by the shoulders and pinned him down forcefully, saying he'd finally caught him. The next second, another thug threw a violent knee strike, but Kim Jin barely felt a thing. He was bleeding, but he didn't feel any pain. Suddenly, he lunged forward and headbutted the man, leaving him dazed. Even the one holding him from behind was thrown off. That scene shocked everyone. He wasn't just an ordinary person, he was a monster. Kim Jin's voice was called. He said no one would leave there that day and asked if they were from the Hermes laboratory. The first one to recognize him was Song Yichi. His expression, his movements, and the way he spoke were all too familiar, making her shudder. She started to connect the image of the former skeleton with the human standing in front of her. At the same time, the boss recognized him too. He said that he really had returned to his human form, but that his girlfriend was in their hands, questioning whether he still dared to act. A gunshot rang out and a bullet pierced Kim Jin's left arm. Even though he was strong, he wasn't faster than a bullet, nor could he completely ignore the pain it caused. The boss laughed out loud, calling him an idiot for falling into the trap. The thugs pulled out their guns and started shooting non-stop. Bullets hit Kim Jin like a storm, opening countless holes in his body in just a few seconds. Since they knew he could regenerate, the strategy was simple: don't give him any time to recover. The flesh that regenerated was destroyed again, and the intense pain shot straight through to his bones. Even so, Kim Jin couldn't fall. If he fell, Song Yiji would die. His body was torn apart by bullets, his bones shattered by the impact, and even his lungs were pierced, making it impossible for him to breathe. Song Yiji fell into despair and begged them to stop shooting. The next moment, Kim Jin collapsed to the ground, but his mind remained clear. As long as he could absorb blood, he could rebuild his body. He raised his arm and began to crawl slowly. Then he pressed his hand against the ground and started drawing the blood around him toward himself. Soon, the blood spilled from previous experiments also began to gather around him. His heart was pounding violently. Someone realized what was happening and warned that he could recover by absorbing blood. When they looked again, Kim Jin was already getting up. He had absorbed enough blood and could no longer be stopped. The men aimed their weapons again and fired non-stop. He could feel every bullet entering his body, tearing through his flesh and shattering his bones, but his body kept regenerating at the same time. The pain kept repeating itself, but it was nothing compared to what he had already endured at the Institute. He had already been burned with magma and had his bones crushed by machines. Compared to that, bullets were like the wind. Kim Jin struck one of the men in the face, sending him flying. Those gunshots couldn't destroy him or scare him because he had already endured much worse pain. Everyone was paralyzed with fear. Another man tried to block a punch, but his arm was instantly broken and he was thrown against the wall. With just a few moves, Kim Jin defeated the remaining three. His eyes were filled with fury. Someone had to pay for the death of the dogs, and that day, no one would leave alive. The enemies were thrown down one after another. He swore he would never run away again or let anyone close to him get hurt. Now only the boss was left. He panicked and threatened to kill Song Yeji, but before he could finish, he was struck in the face so fast he couldn't react. The black marks appeared on Kim Jin's face, a sign of his extreme rage. With one blow, he hurled the boss against an iron tank, crushing him completely. But that wasn't the end. Kim Jin slowly approached, and the boss, desperate, begged for his life. It was already too late. The dogs were dead and couldn't come back. Without hesitation, Kim Jin started hitting him over and over. His blows fell like rain, smashing his face until it was unrecognizable. After several punches, his rage began to subside. His hand was covered in blood. No one would have imagined that a seemingly weak young man could defeat all those criminals by himself. The warehouse was destroyed with several bodies scattered around. After all that, Kim Jin took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. Song Yiji called him, asking if he was okay. He walked toward her, but his presence was still heavy and terrifying. Even she, who already knew him, couldn't stop trembling. He hugged her and was grateful that she was okay. Unable to control himself, he started to cry. The best possible outcome was that she was alive, but the dogs had died to save her. That pain was etched into his heart. Song Yiji, confused, asked why he was thanking her. She hugged him back and said that she was the one who should be grateful. After that, Kim Jin took her outside. Soon, the bodies in the warehouse would attract the attention of the authorities. Sometime later, they returned to where the dogs were. They were all dead. Song Yeji, who used to feed them, felt a deep pain seeing him like that. Then she saw Kim Jin bite his finger and try to feed the dogs his blood, attempting to bring him back to life. She stopped him, saying that would only make them suffer more. Kim Jin didn't understand. He said they died because of him and that they probably hated him. Song Yeji gently explained that wasn't true. They liked him. Those dogs usually avoided humans, but he was the only exception. She said they showed signs of abuse and carried trauma, which is why they didn't trust people. Kim Jin never knew that. He always thought they were just docile. Then she said that if he kept hurting and blaming himself, the dogs would be sad. After hearing that, he finally started to understand. Sun Yeji smiled and said that the fact they approached him without hesitation was proof. Maybe it was because both of them had gone through similar situations. Kim Jin had countless scars from being used as an experiment. He thanked her silently. If it hadn't been for her, he never would have understood what the dogs really felt. At that moment, a faint sound came from behind him. When they turned to look, they discovered there was still a puppy hiding. At that moment, Kim Jin recognized it right away. It was the puppy named Batata. He hadn't seen it before and had been worried the whole time. So luckily, it was still alive. The puppy walked toward Kim Jin, step by step. It sat in front of him, wagging its tail non-stop, but he couldn't figure out what that meant. Kim Jin crouched down and spoke to it softly. "Don't you hate me? Your friends and your mother died because of me." But the puppy just licked his finger. Kim Jin stood still. That little one loved him too. It even fell asleep by his side, as if it considered him a safe place. Song Yeji was very confused and didn't know what to do. There was no way they could just leave that puppy behind, so that meant they could only take it home with them. But if they really took it home, what would happen to Kim Jin? Those people from the lab clearly didn't seem like ordinary criminals. Thinking about that, Song Yeji immediately called her older sister. She said, "I did what you asked me to do, but now I don't know where I should go." Seeing Song Yeji's relaxed smile, Kim Jin was confused. What exactly had happened for her to be so confident? In the end, they talked and decided to take the puppy with them. Soon, they arrived at an apartment complex. When Kim Jin saw how clean and organized Song Yeji's house was, he couldn't help but murmur in amazement. He had never seen a place so spotless. "Can someone as dangerous as me really come in here?" Song Yeji smiled and replied, "You were the one who risked your life to save me. How could you be dangerous?" She added that her older sister really wanted to meet Kim Jin. Her sister was investigating a case that seemed to be related to the lab that was after him, and she might be able to help him. Kim Jin nodded stiffly, but his gaze involuntarily drifted toward the nearby mirror. The moment he saw himself, he was completely paralyzed. Was that person really him? Song Yeji was startled. "Why are you suddenly screaming?" But she had no idea about the shock he was feeling. He had defined features, flesh, blood, and an absurdly beautiful face. It was unreal. It felt like a dream. Song Yeji was also surprised. "Didn't you know your face went back to normal?" Of course Kim Jin didn't know, because his face had never regenerated before. He stared at that face, both familiar and strange, standing completely still. Maybe this is what he would look like when he grew up. The more Song Yeji talked, the more absurd it all seemed. And no matter how you looked at Kim Jin, he didn't look like a middle-aged man at all. "How old are you?" It can be an estimate. Kim Jin started counting on his fingers seriously. He hadn't thought about that in a long time. He entered the lab when he was 7 years old. He spent 7 years in testing, and after escaping, 3 more seasons went by. So now he must be 17 years and 2 months old. When she heard that, Song Yeji spit out the soda she was drinking in shock. She ran over to him. "So we're the same age? Then why did you make me call you uncle before? Explain yourself now." Kim Jin looked away, embarrassed. "I just liked it when you called me that. It made me feel like I was being treated as a person." Song Yeji was stunned. Those words were both irritating and painful at the same time. What exactly had that boy gone through? From that day on, they started calling each other by their names and stopped being so formal. 10 minutes later, they prepared a bowl of food for the dog, and Kim Jin also got a big bowl of hot rice. To him, it tasted amazing. He had never eaten anything so delicious. Song Yeji felt a little embarrassed. Just rice with egg and soy sauce. I'm not very good at cooking, so don't worry about it. I'll serve you a little more. But Kim Jin didn't see it that way. That was the best meal he'd had in all those years. That simple bowl of rice with egg made by Song Yeji was special. Song Yeji's older sister had something come up and couldn't make it, probably because she was too busy with work. Several dishes that Song Yeji made were completely devoured by Kim Jin. There wasn't a single grain of rice left. That night, Song Yeji set up the sofa for Kim Jin to sleep on. It was way better than the garbage station. That sudden happiness left him not knowing what to do, and she even gave him a blanket, something he'd never received before. Song Yeji turned off the living room light and said she had homework to do and would go to sleep in her room afterward. So Kim Jin was supposed to rest first. After that, she closed the bedroom door. Kim Jin was left alone in the living room, not knowing what to do with his hands. His eyes wandered all around him. Everything felt unfamiliar. Like someone entering the city for the first time, he looked at everything without reacting. There was a huge, slim TV. Even more amazing, they had flowers inside the house. He had only seen things like that outside the lab before. He sat down on the sofa, so soft it seemed impossible. Were sofas always like this? Even softer than the beds in the lab? At that moment, the puppy knocked over its food bowl and seemed to choke for a second, like something had gotten stuck. Kim Jin looked over immediately. Would the puppy be okay? The little one spat out a few pieces of kibble but still seemed uncomfortable. Kim Jin's heart sank. Had something gotten stuck in its throat? If it choked to death, that would be the end. He tossed the blanket aside and ran over, but stopped as he got closer. The puppy was totally fine and just lowered its head and kept eating. It even looked at him in confusion. Only after making sure everything was okay did Kim Jin finally breathe a sigh of relief. It was just a false alarm. He placed the puppy next to the pillow and slept beside it. He mumbled that the couch was warm and soft and that he really liked this spot. Meanwhile, the little one kept pacing back and forth. He too had wandered alone for a long time. Their experiences were eerily similar. Kim Jin looked at him absent-mindedly, wanted to give him a name, but after thinking for a bit, Floppy Ears seemed like the best name, and he felt the puppy liked it too. So, from now on, that would be his name. Little by little, Floppy Ears drifted into a deep sleep. Kim Jin felt a warmth in his chest. Maybe this was what people called happiness. Today he ate a real meal and even took a hot bath, things he had never had before. He started to imagine if things could stay this way, if he could live with Floppy Ears and Song Yeji, that would be the happiest time of his life. Even sleeping in such a soft place was something he had never dared to imagine. But he also knew that all of this could be taken away at any moment. If he wanted to keep it, there was only one way: become stronger. He dove into his memories. Back then, he and some companions planned to escape together. They were about to reach the exit. If they managed to get out, they could live like humans. But at the last moment, a group blocked the way. They were all high-level mutants, and facing them required extreme caution. After a deafening explosion, rocks fell like a storm. Many of those trying to escape were crushed instantly. Elsewhere, an armed man raised a laser cannon and aimed it at them. Energy built up and flames were fired. They wanted to burn them all alive. But just when they thought they had succeeded, the situation changed. A girl from the group activated an ice ability and blocked the flames. At that moment, Kim Jin was dizzy, about to faint. As his consciousness began to fade, a hand reached out to him. The person shouted at him to stay awake. The situation was dangerous, and if he passed out, he would be captured again. The man told him to hang in there, that if they managed to get out, they would be free. When Kim Jin heard the word freedom, he felt an immense strength surge through his body. The woman in front of him reached out her hand. "Come on, the exit is right there." Then she grabbed his arm. Seeing the exit so close, he trembled with excitement. All the suffering from those years was finally about to end. But at the last moment, the 7 or 8 people escaping together split up. In the following 3 years, he never managed to get in touch with them again. Kim Jin always carried that pain in his heart. If only they were still together, maybe they'd also be out there thinking about him. When he became strong enough, he would find them. Then he would never allow Song Yeji and Little Ears to be taken away again. Once was enough. Even if it was just this brief moment of peace, he would hold on to it with all his strength. No one would be allowed to destroy his peace. No one would be allowed to touch his friends. Thinking about that, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. None of the people from the lab would escape. When he became strong enough, he would come back for revenge. And when that time came, he would also rescue everyone still inside the lab. The next instant, it was already morning, and his scream nearly echoed through the whole street. He ran desperately through the streets, as if fleeing for his life, his face already soaked with tears. "Little Ears, where are ya?" He had finally found a companion, and there was no way he could lose him again. He needed to find him. He searched every street and alley, but Little Ears was nowhere to be found. That morning, Song Yeji had to go to school. She said her older sister would be back at night and asked Kim Jin to stay home and take care of everything. The moment he heard he would have to meet a stranger, Kim Jin instinctively hesitated. After Song Yeji said goodbye and left, he felt a little envious. A place like school must be really interesting. Little Ears wanted to go out too, but Song Yeji thought that taking him to school would be troublesome, and besides, it wasn't allowed. To keep him from getting bored, Kim Jin suggested taking him out for a walk. Song Yeji was still worried. What if those dangerous people found them again? Kim Jin said it would be fine. Everyone who had seen his face had already been eliminated, and with his current appearance, no one would recognize him. Song Yeji thought about it for a moment and agreed, so she let him take Little Ears out for a walk. She pointed to the leash in the closet and said he needed to put it on him. But Kim Jin didn't expect Little Ears to resist the leash so much. Before they left, Song Yeji warned him several times, without the leash, something could happen and the puppy would be in danger. Seeing how much he was struggling, Kim Jin's heart tightened. Was Little Ears suffering because of it, or had he put it on too tight? The more he thought about it, the guiltier he felt. The puppy's mother had just died, and now he was still hurting him. Anyway, Sweet Potato had been his benefactor, so he should loosen up a bit. Besides, since he himself had been tied up with ropes before, he felt empathy for Little Ears. But while he was still hesitating, the puppy slipped out of the leash and even bit a passerby's pants. Kim Jin finally decided to take off the leash and just carry him around for a walk. But when he looked down, Little Ears had already disappeared, and even the collar had come off. His heart started racing and his breathing became uncontrollable. Had Little Ears run away just like he once did? All he could do was run in the direction the puppy had gone. He didn't dare think about what would happen if he lost him too. What kind of hell would he return to? Meanwhile, Little Ears, having regained his freedom, was running through the streets full of joy. His destination was the school. He wanted to find Sung Yeji. On the other hand, Kim Jin had no clue, not a trace of the puppy anywhere. He even searched through trash cans but found nothing. He searched for a long time and still nothing. He was on the verge of despair. How was he going to explain this to Sung Yeji delight? The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Everything she said was true. Taking the puppy outside was dangerous. If he got run over, he would have no reason to live anymore. If dog traffickers caught him, it would be even worse. The night before, he had promised to protect him, and now he was already gone. When he looked up, he saw a school ahead. Song Yeji goes to school. Could this be the wine? As he was thinking that, he saw a little dog scratching its ear. When it turned its head, Kim Jin recognized it immediately. It was Floppy Ears. He ran over there. Now that he had found him, he couldn't let him get away again. The puppy must have followed Sung Yeji there. He hid behind a tree and watched the students coming and going with an unfamiliar look of envy. Everyone seemed so happy. He heard people talking about heart mutants. When he turned his head, he saw 3 students watching a video that said those mutants were the result of experiments. There was even a reward notice. An unregistered mutant could be worth a lot of money. They were also talking about the illegal market for mutant organs. Kim Jin laughed to himself. That's how the outside world saw them. He told himself he needed to be even more careful, find Little Ears, and get out of there right away. Soon he saw him again, not far away. Little Ears was following 3 girls who got excited when they saw him. They came closer, saying he was so cute, and started taking pictures. But the moment they took the picture, Kim Jin appeared in the shot. The 3 of them got scared. "Who are you? Are you a stalker?" Kim Jin quickly apologized. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I'm not a stalker. The dog next to you is mine. His name's Little Ears." To his surprise, after he spoke, the 3 of them fell silent. They looked at his school uniform. It looked like a freshman's, but they had never seen him before. A transfer student? Kim Jin felt uncomfortable and asked if they were taking pictures of him. The 2 of them got even more excited. Actually, if we were taking pictures of you, can we take a photo together? You're really handsome. Kim Jin immediately refused, saying he couldn't appear in videos. At that moment, a hand holding a cell phone reached out in front of him. Give me your contact info. The one who spoke was the prettiest girl in the school. The other two were shocked. Minjan had never asked a guy for his contact info before. She was an influencer with 100,000 followers. Minjan was excited on the inside. He was ridiculously handsome, and even his shyness was charming. It would be great to go out with him. But Kim Jin said he didn't have an account. Sigh. Minjan frowned slightly. That was a pretty blunt rejection. And how could anyone these days not have an account? Kim Jin didn't give her time to react and bound. I appreciate your kindness, but I have to say no. The two friends were in disbelief. It was the first time Minjan had ever been rejected like that. Even Minjan couldn't hide it anymore. Kim Jin took orejitas from Minjan's arms and thanked her several times for helping to find the dog. Minjan got even more annoyed. I'm pretty, and yet I lose to a dog? But Kim Jin didn't notice that. A little farther away, a boy was watching everything, already considering him a romantic rival. The boy lifted his foot and kicked a ball straight at Kim Jin's face. It happened too fast, and he couldn't react. He took the hit full on. The boy walked over with a fake look of regret and apologized only to the pretty girl, ignoring Kim Jin. Kim Jin called out to him, "Are you blind?" That was dangerous. My dog almost got hurt. Apologize now. The boy laughed. You want me to apologize to a dog? The next second, he held himself back when he saw the girl nearby. He didn't really apologize, he just told Kim Jin to go to the nurse's office, mentioning that someone had already broken their nose with a ball before. Kim Jin said he was fine, but that the dog almost got hurt and that he should be more careful. The boy nodded repeatedly in a superficial way. Okay, I'm sorry. Dogs are valuable, right? Kim Jin agreed, since he hadn't been hurt. The matter seemed settled and he turned to leave with Little Ears in his arms. As soon as Kim Jin left, the boy sent his friends to dig up information about him. He didn't like his attitude. Even so, Kim Jin was happy. Even though he had almost lost the puppy, nothing bad happened, and he saw a lot of people his age at the school. He wondered if, had he gone to school, he might have been able to make friends. At that moment, someone called out to him. The boy who had kicked the ball ran over to him and put his arm around his shoulder. Hey man, sorry about earlier. Kim Jin didn't understand the concept of friendship. The boy said they were in the same class, so that made him friends. He said he felt bad about what happened and wanted to buy him some bread. Kim Jin asked if he was serious, and the boy said yes, of course, and even joked that the dog in Kim Jin's arms would be used for breeding. As he spoke, he led Kim Jin to a corner. The next second, he kicked him hard. Kim Jin was paralyzed. What was happening? Why did that guy suddenly attack him when he looked up? He was already surrounded by 3 people. Their eyes were cruel. Are you stupid? We said we'd buy you some bread and you actually believed it. They kept their word. They started beating him right away. Kim Jin looked around. There were probably more than a dozen people nearby. They asked him why he had messed with that guy's girlfriend. Kim Jin cursed inwardly. He had thought the guy really wanted to be friends, but in the end, he was just looking for trouble. He turned to leave, not wanting to say anything else, but the person in front of him blocked his way. You think you can just come and go as you please? Holding back his anger, Kim Jin told him to move aside. A moment ago, you scared my dog. The moment he finished speaking, the guy in green in front of him raised his hand to slap him, and from the direction of the swing, it was clear he was aiming for the dog's ears. The next second, Kim Jin punched him and sent him flying. Everyone was in shock. What the hell? Is this guy really that strong? Even the guy who had offered the bread was stunned. He only saw Kim Jin slightly raise his hand and then his subordinate went flying. 3 people stepped forward at the same time. What did you do to our brother? But to Kim Jin, their movements were so slow they seemed frozen, and he didn't even bother to look at them. But today he was really irritated because they tried to hurt his dog. In the next instant, Kim Jin's heart pounded hard. Then, several people were thrown by him so quickly that they couldn't even see the path of his blows. Kim Jin aimed his fist at the leader in front of him, and just as the punch was about to land, he stopped, changed direction, and struck the wall next to the man's head. The brick wall shattered instantly, with fragments exploding outward, scaring everyone. I already told you to stop, but you didn't listen. You almost scared my dog to death. At that moment, everyone realized he wasn't just an ordinary person, but a monster who could destroy a brick wall with his bare hands. They didn't even care about the boss anymore and ran out. The boss was terrified too. He had never seen anyone like that before. He collapsed to the ground trembling. If that blow had hit him, his bones would have surely been broken. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he felt, realizing he had provoked something he never should have. He threw away his pride, got down on his knees and begged for mercy, saying he would never disrespect a dog again. He even put all the blame on his subordinate. They were the ones who wanted to hit the dog. I really didn't want to. I have a dog at home too. I love dogs, I swear. Kim Jin looked and he really did have a dog at home. Maybe it wasn't completely bad. At that moment, Kim Jin's stomach growled. He had only used a little strength and was already hungry. He hadn't eaten all day, and neither had the puppy. The boss felt miserable. Hungry at a time like this? Should he buy him food or not? Then he changed his mind. There was no way that was a coincidence. Kim Jin was clearly pretending to let him go while secretly extorting him for food. What a manipulator. At that moment, somewhere out of sight, Song Jae-hee was in the classroom doing homework, while the long-haired guy had already ordered a huge amount of snacks and bread for Kim Jin. Seeing Kim Jin devour the food, the long-haired guy even felt uncomfortable. Has this guy never eaten before? But the truth was, Kim Jin really had never eaten that kind of bread before. It even had pieces of strawberry inside. The long-haired guy felt a chill. That guy was ridiculously strong, but his reactions were kinda naive. He secretly made a call to a thug. The man was strong, and the long-haired guy wanted him to come and beat Kim Jin up brutally. He promised a big reward afterward. After a few words, the other side agreed. The long-haired guy sneered inwardly. Just wait for your death. When he turned his head, he saw Kim Jin giving ham to the puppy. He looked at Kim Jin's hands. There wasn't a single scar. The more he looked, the stranger it seemed. Not even a professional boxer would be like that. An idea popped into his mind. This guy might be a mutant at heart. He said it out loud, and Kim Jin was so startled he spit out the glue he was drinking. He quickly denied it, saying he wasn't, but to the other guy, that just made him seem even more suspicious. The long-haired guy covered his mouth in shock. It was the first time he'd ever seen a heart mutant. No wonder Kim Jin was different from ordinary people. He immediately warned the thug, afraid he might unknowingly put himself in danger. But when he heard heart mutant, the thug got even more excited. The long-haired guy tried to stop him, telling him not to come. It was dangerous. But what surprised him most was that the thug asked him to keep the mutant there. At that moment, Kim Jin finished eating and got ready to leave. Of course, the long-haired guy couldn't let him go. He needed to buy time until the boss arrived, so he took Kim Jin to an arcade. After playing for a while, Kim Jin was really happy. It was his first time in a place like that. In Kim Jin's heart, the long-haired guy was really a good person. He even took him to the claw machines, but the long-haired guy knew all of this was just to buy time. Then they went to the karaoke car. Kim Jin didn't have any musical sense, but he sang the whole song from beginning to end. The long-haired guy said he sang badly, but that was the only children's song he knew. Kim Jin said he was separated from his family when he was 7 years old. That was the song his mother taught him before she left. After that, he never had a normal life again or learned any other songs. The long-haired guy's heart trembled. Separated from his family at 7 and never living a normal life. What had that guy been through? He started to feel more and more uneasy. Did all mutants live like this? Kim Jin's past shook him. What was he doing plotting against someone like that? Suddenly, he pulled out all the money he had. Today, I'm gonna spend it all. I need to let you live like a normal person at least once. I'll show you the real world. They played rhythm games and also Street Fighter, but Kim Jin didn't win a single round. In the end, Kim Jin got tired. Not just him, the long-haired guy did too. Spending all the tokens was exhausting. Shortly after, he got a call from the boss. Only then did he remember he was supposed to keep Kim Jin there until the boss arrived to beat him up. But he'd had so much fun that he completely forgot. Even more absurd, he took several photos with Kim Jin. For some reason, he'd actually been happy that day. He said goodbye to Kim Jin. It's already late. Go home. Let's hang out again another day. After that, he went to see the thug and apologized politely. Sorry, I found out he's not a heart mutant. The boss didn't believe him. Are you messing with me? The next moment, the long-haired guy got beaten up. He didn't dare fight back and was left trembling on the ground. But the thug had no intention of letting him go. Spit it out already. Where's the mutant? The long-haired guy begged, explaining that he spent the whole day with him and he seemed like a regular person. If he really were a mutant, he would have noticed something weird by now. In the dance game, he was just a weak guy. After just a few jumps, he was already out of breath. The thug got irritated, as if he'd made the trip for nothing. He crouched down and pressured the long-haired guy. Explain yourself, why did you suddenly change your story? He even offered him money to reveal where Kim Jin was. But the long-haired guy didn't give in. He didn't want to sell out a friend for money. He just said, trust me, he's just a regular guy. The thug kicked him in the stomach. So, you're not gonna cooperate? The blow nearly knocked the wind out of him. The thug wrapped an iron chain around his hand, threatening to get violent if he didn't talk. Even so, the long-haired guy clenched his teeth and refused. He's just a regular person. Why are you after a regular person? The thug completely lost his patience. I see. So you want to die now? As he said that, he brought his fist down, but at that exact moment a hand grabbed his wrist. The iron chain was as thick as a thumb, with welding spots and burrs. If you hit someone with it, the wound would stay infected for a long time. The long-haired guy's eyes trembled. How could he be here? Kim Jin crouched down slowly. I came to find you. You played with me for so long, so I came to thank you. The long-haired guy, desperate, told him to run away. I know these guys. The straight thugs. I was the one who called them to beat you up. He confessed everything. He even told him that Kim Jin was a mutant of the heart. Kim Jin only asked one question. Why? The long-haired guy was left speechless. After a few seconds, he answered in a low voice that he was really angry because he had been beaten up and apologized. But that wasn't what Kim Jin wanted to know. He looked at the chain and asked why he was letting those guys use it to beat him. The thug's eyes instantly darkened. The long-haired guy was even more confused. In a situation like this, you still care about that? The next second, someone hit Kim Jin on the back from behind. Then several people knocked him to the ground and started beating him with punches and kicks. A masked man let out a loud laugh. So you're the heart mutant, huh? Dumb enough to fall right into our hands. But Kim Jin completely ignored him and just stretched out his fingers, absorbing the blood from the floor. In the very next instant, he punched the man in the jaw, sending him flying with ease, even leaving the other thugs in shock. In less than 3 minutes, Kim Jin took everyone down. None of them were worthy of being his opponent. The gang leader took advantage of an opening and stabbed a knife straight into his heart. He didn't move, he just let it happen. When the other man's hand was already weak from hitting so much, Kim Jin grabbed the blade. Stop trying to stab me. I'm not gonna die. He took the knife and stabbed it into the man's thigh, making him feel the same pain. The others tried to run away, but Kim Jin appeared in front of them in an instant. They already knew his secret, so they couldn't be allowed to leave alive. 3 minutes later, everyone was on the ground, unable to stand. The long-haired one, his face completely swollen, crawled over to Kim Jin. You got stabbed. Are you okay? Kim Jin said he was fine. The wound had already closed on its own. The long-haired one was in shock. It was no wonder. Was he really a mutant? Even his healing was absurd. In the end, he quietly apologized. I betrayed you. I don't deserve to be your friend. Kim Jin didn't explain anything, he just handed him a towel. You're bleeding. Clean that up first. The long-haired one realized it was the dog's pee pad and cursed him out in his head. This guy is such a jerk. Even so, he wiped up the blood. I really don't deserve to be his friend. Selling you out behind your back. When he heard that, Kim Jin let out a small laugh, and that made him happy. Looks like I'm not the only one who thinks we're friends. That's enough for me. That sentence completely broke the long-haired guy, and he started to cry. He hugged Kim Jin and thanked him for forgiving him. You're amazing. After everything was sorted out, Sang Yechi came running in. When the long-haired man saw her, his whole body froze. He never imagined that the girl he admired knew Kim Jin. Her heart was broken. Didn't you say you didn't have any friends? You lied to me, liar! At that moment, Kim Jin said he wanted to go after the intermediary, but Song Yeji stopped him right away, saying that they hunt heart mutants and are completely insane. Many intermediaries are also mutants. That only made Kim Jin want to find him even more. The two of them didn't understand why he was so determined. Kim Jin explained that he had a personal reason. He had a connection with the intermediary from the time he was separated from his companions. Maybe he could find them again through that. The long-haired one insisted, didn't you say you didn't have any friends? So where did these friends come from now? Kim Jin's expression darkened. I don't have any friends here, but I did have some in the lab. They were companions who survived with me. In the lab, there was only pain and experiments every day. One day he was taken to an unknown place. The journey was long and terrifying. He thought it would be more torture. He was thrown into a space filled with swords and knives. Only after going through that did he understand it was a test. The blades pierced his body over and over again. Then they pushed him into a room. Not daring to resist, he opened the door. Inside there were several children wearing the same experimental uniform. They all had special abilities. They were just like him, heart mutants. Suddenly someone attacked. A boy made a blade appear in his hand and lunged at him. Before he could react, the sword was cut in half. A shield of ice appeared and blocked the attack. A girl appeared and hit the attacker, calling him an idiot. He's not a monster. Look at his uniform, it's just like ours. Then several kids surrounded Kim Jin, curious. It was the first time they'd seen a living skeleton. Not knowing what to do, Kim Jin covered his face and asked them not to look at him, but nobody cared. They just kept watching. Then someone said he looked cool, even though he was a skeleton. They weren't afraid of him. After that, everyone started introducing themselves, happy to have a new friend. It was the first time Kim Jin knew what it felt like to have friends. He found out that they were all test subjects from different labs. Because they shared the same suffering, they quickly grew close. They only met a few times a year, but they cherished every meeting. Suddenly, loud crying interrupted everything. Song Yiji was moved. "What kind of life did you live?" She asked where those friends were now, but he didn't know. When they escaped from the lab, everyone got separated. There were too many guards. It was the only way to survive. Son Yiji understood. So you want to find the intermediary because maybe he's also looking for your friends. They decided to help. The one with long hair took the bandit's phone and quickly found the message history. They planned to capture Kim Jin at 7 in the evening, and it was almost time. Meanwhile, 3 luxury cars were parked outside a warehouse. A group of people armed with knives were attacking a man, but the man didn't seem to take them seriously. With a simple movement of his body, he dodged all the blows in an instant. A black hole appeared in his palm, and from it, a long blade was slowly drawn out with a casual motion. Several people fell on the spot. The way they were swinging their knives was wrong. A blade should be used like this. He and they just weren't on the same level. But the boss on the other side didn't panic, since he had a weapon in his hand. However, the instant he pulled the trigger, the man's blade sliced the gun in half. The boss started trembling all over. That man standing in front of him was powerful, like a natural disaster. The man let out a low chuckle. If you use a blade properly, even steel can be cut. That was his skill, the sword of the heart. In no time, everyone there was defeated by him. At that moment, he saw that someone had sent him a message. As soon as his eyes scanned the contents, they narrowed slightly. The message said, in short, that the person had already been captured. Send your location and we'll meet for the exchange. Shortly after, Kim Jin quickly headed toward an alley. He could feel that the place was cold and oppressive, as if something was waiting for him. He quickly analyzed his surroundings. This had to be the meeting point. There were only a few minutes left until the agreed time with the intermediary. Kim Jin remembered that the intermediary who sold mutants had previously said that the buyer could also be a heart mutant. Song Yeji suppressed her uneasiness and asked if he was really gonna meet with that intermediary. Kim Jin nodded. They commit crimes targeting heart mutants. I've heard that they themselves might also be heart mutants. Song Yeji more or less understood. So you want to find more mutants and see if you can get any clues about your friends. She was still worried, but Kim Jin had no intention of fighting directly. He just wanted to observe from a distance using his abilities. Even if something really did happen, he could still escape safely. But if those who treat mutants like merchandise show up, I'll capture every last one of them. After saying that, Kim Jin picked up a wrench at a construction site. If he really needed to fight, he at least needed a weapon. If the other side was a mutant, charging in and fighting head-on would be pointless. When fighting a mutant, the most important thing was to first figure out the opponent's ability. But just as he gripped the wrench and was still thinking about how to test that ability, several cold flashes streaked across his vision and interrupted his thoughts before he could react. Sharp blades were already slicing through the air toward him, slamming into a metal pillar and sending sparks flying everywhere. Kim Jin's pupils contracted violently. They were knives. A cold voice came from the other side. "What are you doing? You came alone. You don't look like someone here to negotiate mutants." The man continued, "Are you a Pak?" Kim Jin stared at the hooded man, his heart sinking and cold sweat running down his face. Could he be the middleman? He braced himself on the ground and managed to stay on his feet, keeping his eyes fixed on the long blade in the other man's hand. He didn't seem like a mutant, more like an ordinary human, but that murderous intent was even more dangerous than someone with powers. If he were just a regular person, it would be much easier to deal with him. In the next second, Kim Jin moved forward directly. He closed the distance instantly, not giving the other man any time to react. But at the exact moment his fist was about to strike, he stopped abruptly. Kim Jin's eyes were filled with disbelief. The person in front of him was actually his former lab partner, Lee Chae-won. Lee Chae slowly raised the blade and coldly asked Kim Jin how he knew his name. The next instant, before Kim Jin could say a word, Lee Chae attacked him with a blow. Kim Jin's body was slammed to the ground with force, but he immediately got up and kept calling his name. Shortly after, Lee Chae directly cut the tendons in his leg, causing his body to lose all strength. Kim Jin hadn't expected the attack to be so brutal, and several deep wounds appeared on his body. He stared intently at Lee Chae. He couldn't understand it. That man's swordsmanship was completely beyond his comprehension. At that moment, Kim Jin couldn't help but remember the scene when they escaped from the lab. While he was running away, a huge stone block suddenly appeared in front of him. At that moment, he thought he would be crushed, but accompanied by several sharp sounds of blades, the stone was cut into fragments. Back then, Lee Chae's sword skills had already impressed him, but that was years ago. Years later, Lee Chae would only be even stronger. He had told Kim Jin that he would clear a path for him. Back in the present, Lee Chae pressed Kim Jin again, asking how he knew his name. Kim Jin didn't answer. He just stood up once again, which made Lee Chae hesitate, surprised. "I cut the tendons in your leg and you can still stand? So you're a heart mutant too?" Kim Jin pounded his chest and shouted that it was him, the little skeleton, who had regenerated his body. The image of the little skeleton flashed through Lee Chae's mind. "So that means you're Kim Jin." Even so, he wasn't completely convinced and asked again if he was that Kim Jin from high school. Kim Jin nodded. Seeing that his old friend was still alive made him extremely happy. In the next second, Lee Chae raised his hand and pointed. "So you really are Kim Jin?" Kim Jin told him to look at his body. "I regenerated myself, and we studied together in high school. Isn't that enough proof?" As soon as he finished speaking, Kim Jin moved toward Lee Chae, saying that he had missed him a lot. But when he went in for the hug, Lee Chae opened his hand, summoned a blade, and attacked with murderous intent. Kim Jin didn't have time to react and was struck immediately. His body was covered in wounds, but he forced himself not to fall. Cold sweat ran down his forehead. "You still can't recognize me?" A slight smile appeared at the corner of Lee Chae's mouth. "Now I can be sure that you really are Kim Jin, because your wounds are healing incredibly fast." Kim Jin pulled the blade out of his body and showed the wound, hoping it would stop. But in the next instant, Lee Chae disappeared from where he was standing. When he reappeared, the tip of his blade was already pressed against Kim Jin's throat. The moment he attacked, Kim Jin quickly dodged, but Lee Chae kept attacking relentlessly, and Kim Jin could only roll and evade, forced into a humiliating situation. Leaning on the ground, Kim Jin roared, asking why he kept attacking and if he still hadn't recognized him. Lee Chae's face darkened with rage. "You should know better than anyone." Lee Chae's sword attacks were relentless, and Kim Jin was completely overpowered. Streams of blood kept pouring from his body, and the latest blows added countless new wounds. The blade was just too fast. Kim Jin wanted to build up strength through the bleeding, but the movements in the fight were too intense, and he couldn't retain enough blood. If that kept up, he'd just be wasting his time. He looked up and saw Lee Chae coming at him again. Kim Jin clenched his fist and faced him head-on, but what he never expected was for Lee Chae's blade to go straight through his arm. The speed was so great that he couldn't even see the movement. Lee Chae mocked him, asking if he really thought such a brute force attack could hit him. He was right. Kim Jin's strike wouldn't have landed. Kim Jin knew better than anyone just how terrifying Lee Chae's swordsmanship was. But at that moment, Lee Chae's eyes trembled because Kim Jin used his regenerated muscles to trap the blade inside his own body. Then, with his other hand, Kim Jin grabbed Lee Chae all at once. While Lee Chae was still in shock, Kim Jin spun around and lifted his entire body. A whirlwind surged in Lee Chae's chest. What kind of monstrous strength was that? With a sudden movement, Kim Jin violently threw him far away. When Lee Chae hit the ground, dust immediately rose up, but he threw his head back and laughed. I thought you were just a weak skeleton, but I didn't expect you to be this strong now. But if you could fight, why did you run away back then? Kim Jin raised his hand, signaling him to stop. I never said I ran away. Those words only made Lee Chae even more irritated. I'm talking about the lab, about the day we planned our escape. At that time, a lot of guinea pigs escaped together, but some were caught again right there, and even those who managed to get away couldn't escape the pursuit. That's when Lee Chae realized there wasn't enough metal around, so her ability couldn't keep working. She told her companions to hurry and find more iron to save those who had been captured. But Kim Jin just kept looking around, and even though there was metal nearby, he didn't bring anything. Lee Chae saw that he had frozen because under a hail of bullets, Kim Jin turned around and ran off alone. At that moment, even Lee Chae himself fell silent. If he hadn't run, maybe none of us would have survived. Lee Chae mocked him, calling him a coward and weak. I never should have trusted a skeleton like you from the start. In the next second, he opened his fingers and drew all the metal from around the buildings toward his heart. As he absorbed it, the entire old metal structure around them started to come loose and shake. Lee Chae knew that Kim Jin's regeneration was strong, but he believed that an attack of that level was more than he could handle. Before he could even regenerate, he'd be reduced to pieces. And in fact, that's exactly what was happening. Kim Jin was already starting to panic. He tried to back away, but behind him, Lee Chae had already formed a sword formation. Countless blades were all pointing at him at the same time. Kim Jin could only protect his vital points and force himself to endure. As long as he held on, he could regenerate. But in the very next instant, a flash of a sword passed before his eyes. Lee Chae's attack was terrifying. Before Kim Jin could react, several strikes had already hit him, knocking him down until he couldn't move anymore. With that sequence of slashes, the entire scrap structure could no longer hold together. Outside the site, people only heard a huge explosion, as if something had detonated nearby. Song Yiji and the long-haired man saw it too. Isn't that the direction he went? Did something happen? At the same time, inside the site, Kim Jin had pinned down Lee Chae. Lee Chae had no choice but to admit that Kim Jin's regeneration speed was absurdly high, but that wasn't the most important thing. Kim Jin asked him to calm down. There must be some misunderstanding between us. I didn't run away back then. That day, I fought until the end to protect everyone, and the reason I'm here today is because I'm afraid my friends have been captured. Lee Chae froze. What kind of misunderstanding could there be? Just as the two were facing off, they heard someone approaching. Kim Jin knew very well that if strangers saw him, he would be exposed. At that moment, Lee Chae withdrew his arm. He also took a step back and let Kim Jin leave first, saying they would talk next time. Whatever needed to be said, they could say it later. Before leaving, he looked at Kim Jin, and his gaze carried a deep meaning. We've both been through a lot these past years. When the time comes, we'll have a lot to talk about. Kim Jin was a little surprised. He never imagined that Lee Chae worked at a fast food restaurant. Shortly after, Lee Chae sat down and told Kim Jin that this was his job. This time, Song Yeji and the man with long hair also went with Kim Jin. Even though Song Yeji was nervous, she still greeted Lee Chae politely. Lee Chae was also a little surprised. She didn't expect that Kim Jin had made friends there. The man with long hair was still hung up on the fight between Lee Chae and Kim Jin from the day before. Kim Jin told him not to talk like that Lee Chae was a good friend. Then they continued the conversation that had been left unfinished the day before. Lee Chae wanted to know why Kim Jin had run away back then. Actually, Kim Jin wasn't trying to run away. At the most critical moment, he heard a familiar sound, the beep of a bomb. When they were surrounded, that sound made his hair stand on end. He was extremely sensitive to bombs because he had already been blown up many times. When the people from the institute got closer, Kim Jin wanted to use the bombs to bring down the building and stop the pursuit. But if he did that, a lot of people would die. So all he could do was hold the bombs against his own body for as long as possible, trying to keep the explosion within a limit he could withstand. As a result, he ended up getting too far away in the chaos. Then the dozens of bombs in his arms exploded all at once, blasting him far away. When he woke up, he was already in a completely unfamiliar place. He looked around and didn't see anyone, so he figured everyone else had escaped too. Lee Chae's memory was a little fuzzy, but he remembered hearing an explosion in the distance. He asked incredulously if Kim Jin had really carried a bunch of bombs. "Yeah, I carried them, and I knew they couldn't kill me, that's why I did it." Lee Chae put his hand to his face. "And you expect me to believe something that ridiculous?" Kim Jin knew it sounded absurd, but everything he said was true. The next moment, Lee Chae couldn't hold back his tears anymore. "I believe you." That sudden statement left Kim Jin stunned for a moment. Then, with a knife in hand, Lee Chae went to the back kitchen and started chopping onions frantically. Kim Jin watched in disbelief. Lee Chae tossed several ingredients into the air. His movements were clean and quick, almost like a performance. In just a few seconds, he made an onion burger. "Sorry, I lost control of my emotions. The onion's a little spicy. Also, it's a gift for you." When Kim Jin saw the gift, he almost started drooling. It was the house special combo. Lee Chae was very popular at the restaurant, and soon students came over to ask for photos with him. He turned on a cute dog filter and his attitude became much friendlier. But when he returned to his spot, he regained that cold and distant presence. He quietly apologized to Kim Jin. "Yesterday I acted before understanding the situation. It was my fault." But Kim Jin seemed not to hear or just didn't care. Friends don't need that. He was just impressed by the taste of the burger. Lee Chae smiled. "Eat slowly, there's no shortage of burgers here." He told Kim Jin that he was the highest-ranking executive at the store and the general manager. Kim Jin exclaimed that it was amazing. It seemed like a completely normal life, and for Lee Chae to have made it there, it surely wasn't easy. Lee Chae promised that, in the future, he would help Kim Jin become an ordinary person too. At that moment, he was clearly excited, already planning to bring him to work there, and even said he could offer him half the base salary. That way, Kim Jin could become someone ordinary and low-key. But when he started getting too excited, Kim Jin interrupted him. "I need to ask you something clearly. We met at the agreed place. Why were you acting as a middleman? Did you forget what they turned us into at the institute? How can you do that? I need an answer, because I need to understand what you're doing." Lee Chae scratched his head, a bit uncomfortable, and said that when he was bored, he pretended to be a middleman, but in reality he used that identity to catch people who hunted heart mutants. It turns out that Lee Chae never forgot his companions and also wanted to find them. He disguised himself as a middleman to get information and then took out those criminals. Kim Jin never imagined that they both had the same goal and even used similar methods. Hearing that, he finally felt relieved. His friend hadn't changed. He was still a good person and hadn't gone down the wrong path. That is, Lee Chae worked there during the day and at night carried out a reverse hunt by pretending to be a middleman. That was shocking. My friend is really scary. He suffered more than I imagined. Lee Chae felt a little embarrassed and said it hadn't been that hard. Kim Jin said that if he ever needed help, he could ask any time. "I came to find you because I also want to know what happened to our friends, so you don't need to be formal with me." Lee Chae's expression changed for a moment. The next second, he slammed the table. "Of course, why would I be formal with you?" This time he was getting ready to catch a real middleman, and if they were lucky, they might find clues about the other friends. Kim Jin wanted to go along, worried that something might happen if Lee Chae went alone. But Lee Chae refused. Too many people would just make things more complicated. He reached out his hand and said he would still need Kim Jin's help many times in the future. Kim Jin also reached out and bumped his fist. "Whenever you call me, I'll come." It was already nighttime. Kim Jin was really grateful that his two friends had waited for him all that time. Behind him, the long-haired man was still suspicious. "Is that guy really your friend? You haven't seen each other in so many years. How can you trust him?" Son Yeji agreed as well. When he mentioned selling people to brokers, I was really surprised at that moment. Kim Jin laughed softly and told them not to worry. Lee Chae was totally trustworthy because he had always been that way since they were kids. Then Song Yeji thought of some was. "But your friend said he would get in touch with you." "He doesn't have a cell phone. How's he gonna talk to ya? Kim Jin took out a cell phone. It was one he had taken from the criminals earlier, and Lee Chae's contact was already saved in it. Meanwhile, a group of people was chasing someone. The person being chased raised his hand, asking them to stop following him. A golden sticky substance started to ooze from his fingers. The next moment, that sticky mass was thrown. The three people behind him were caught off guard and ran straight into the substance, falling to the ground. The man gave an awkward smile. "Sorry, I just want to stay alive." But the moment he finished speaking, a man punched him in the face. Standing in front of him was a man in a suit whose very presence radiated one thing: danger. The punch was so hard he couldn't even open his eyes. His body was shaken uncontrollably. All he could do was beg for mercy. "There's nothing special about my heart. It's just butter, nothing else. Please let me go." The boss grabbed him by the hair and frowned. Even a low-level mutant like this showed up, but a mission was a mission, and he couldn't just let him go because he wanted to. The two people behind him were also surprised. That man's physical ability was no different from that of an ordinary person, but the boss didn't care at all. As long as he was a mutant, whether strong or weak, turning a man was worth $1 billion. Hearing that, the man fell into despair. Would he be captured and turned into an experiment too? But at that moment, Lee Chae's figure appeared behind him. The group was startled. When did this guy show up? One of them had just started to speak when Lee Chae cut him off with a blade. Lee Chae's eyes were extremely cold. "If mutants are worth that much money, then I'll turn myself into you. You can try to capture me." As soon as they realized the newcomer was hostile and also a mutant, they all attacked at once. Lee Chae moved so fast he'd look like a flickering shadow. In the blink of an eye, all four had already been cut. In Lee Chae's eyes, those people weren't even worth his time. The boss pulled out a gun and threatened to shoot if he moved again. But Lee Chae simply grabbed the barrel of the gun with his hand. A gun is made of iron, and since it's iron, it belongs to him. In the next instant, he activated his ability, extracted the iron from the gun, and compressed it into his heart. Even so, the boss didn't believe it and pulled the trigger. What happened next left him paralyzed. Lee Chae had placed several small blades inside the barrel of the gun, which exploded as if it were about to burst, instantly piercing the boss's hand. The boss was ruthless too. He threw the gun away and forcefully tore his hand free from the blades. Shortly after, Lee Chae had already defeated everyone and coldly warned them, if they wanted to live, next time they should stay away from anything made of iron. The butter mutant crawled toward him like a dog. "Thank you so much for saving me." It was the first time he had seen another mutant with a heart like his, and he was trembling with excitement. He thought he would surely die that day, but somehow he had survived. But Lee Chae didn't even look at him and just answered the phone. "The missing heart mutant has been recovered. Come pick him up. Take him back to the lab." The butter mutant was still confused. "What lab?" The next moment, Lee Chae knocked him out with a single blow. His eyes turned cold. "Stay still. Didn't you see I was on the phone?" On the other end of the call, someone was analyzing guinea pig records. "You're interesting. There are a bunch of useless guinea pigs here of all different levels. You never act carelessly, that's why you're still reliable." Lee Chae smiled. "There's something else important to report. I found that little skeleton that escaped before." The moment the other person heard that, there was a noticeable pause. Then they promised that if the little skeleton was captured and brought back, Lee Chae would receive the reward she deserved. Upon hearing the word reward, Lee Chae's expression immediately brightened. "So I'll bring him back tomorrow." After returning home, Lee Chae started preparing dinner by chopping vegetables while thinking about how she was going to deal with Kim Jin. Getting Kim Jin to show up wouldn't be hard, since he trusted her completely. But the day's battle was still fresh in her mind, and she had seen firsthand just how terrifying Kim Jin's regenerative ability was. Not only that, his strength was also much greater than before. Ordinary methods wouldn't work. She could only lure him to a place with a lot of iron. Soon, Lee Chae's curry was ready. Her younger sister, sitting in a wheelchair, smiled happily. "My brother's cooking is the best." Lee Chae's eyes were full of affection. "I even put potatoes in today." Hearing that, her sister got even more excited. "It's my favorite." Lee Chae said that if she wanted to eat something, she could ask for it anytime. Her sister tugged at her clothes, asking her to eat with her, but Lee Chae refused. "Not today. Your brother still has to go out later." Her sister's eyes darkened instantly. "My brother's always like this. Even so, she set aside a portion of food and waited for him to come back. Meanwhile, on the other side, Song Yeji was also cooking at home, but she had never cooked before and was learning step by step by following an AI tutorial. In recent days, she felt that Kim Jin was very tired, so she wanted to prepare a good meal to reward him. Since it was her first time cooking, her hands were sweaty from nerves. This time, she was making grilled meat with fruit. Song Yeji followed the AI's instructions, thinking there was no way it could go wrong. The process, the heat, the seasonings, everything was explained clearly, so all she had to do was follow along. The more she cooked, the happier she felt. There probably wasn't anyone else in the world learning to cook in that way. At that moment, her older sister sent her a message asking if she had eaten dinner yet. Song Yeji quickly invited her to come home from work earlier and try the food, but her sister replied with a vomiting emoji. Song Yeji felt hurt in her heart. She immediately told Kim Jin that her sister wouldn't be back until after midnight and asked him to go to bed early that night. But then she realized that Kim Jin was holding his phone and smiling to himself the whole time, waiting for a call or message from Lee Chae. Seeing that, Song Yeji actually felt relieved. Finally, there was someone who could make Kim Jin show an expression like that. Little Ears was also licking Kim Jin's face, as if sensing his happiness. Even though they hadn't seen each other for so long, the moment Kim Jin saw Lee Chae, it was as if he had gone back in time. Lee Chae was Kim Jin's closest friend and always took good care of him. Whenever he saw Kim Jin alone, he would take the initiative to approach and talk to him. Back then, Kim Jin was very shy and would get nervous even just to speak. Besides, the experiments from a few days ago had left him injured and he didn't want to play. When he heard that, Lee Chae lifted Kim Jin's shirt and saw that his fingers were gone. Kim Jin quickly pulled his arm away. The wounds from a few days ago still hadn't healed. "Don't look. That's too ugly." Lee Chae seemed to see right through him. "You've been restless all this time over something so small." He grabbed him by the sleeve and pulled him out. He even put a blade in his hand to make him feel safer. That's when Lee Chae started to show off his skills. A girl behind him bluntly said that he was bullying someone again. Lee Chae immediately explained that he wasn't bullying, just teaching how to protect oneself. Actually, Kim Jin really liked that blade. To him, it was simply amazing. The girl couldn't understand what they found so exciting and felt a bit left out. At that moment, Lee Chae reached out his arm toward Kim Jin. Kim Jin didn't understand what he meant. Lee Chae explained that real friends bump fists. That's a sign of trust. Kim Jin gently bumped his fist with his too. In that moment, he knew that Lee Chae considered him a friend, and that there was something called trust between them. Thinking about that, Kim Jin couldn't help but smile. Lee Chae was truly amazing. Next to him, Song Yeji didn't understand anything they were saying, but Kim Jin looked really happy. After all, he had reunited with an old friend. Then Song Yeji reminded him to calm down a bit because it was already time for dinner. Then came the dinner she had spent the whole afternoon preparing. Kim Jin stood there, surprised. The color, the aroma, and the flavor all seemed perfect. He never imagined that Song Yeji had that kind of skill. Song Yeji smiled. "Special grilled ribs. Hurry, try them." She knew that Kim Jin liked fruit, so she added plenty of strawberries and apples. Kim Jin took a piece of rib with strawberry, put it in his mouth, and started chewing slowly. Song Yeji watched him nervously. "So, how is it?" But as he chewed, Kim Jin started to cry. The flavor was so surreal that he couldn't believe a person could make something like this. Whether it was the orange or the strawberry, the sweetness was just right. Even the ribs were incredibly tender and aromatic. That combination was pure genius. Kim Jin noticed that Little Ears was also looking at his plate as if he wanted some. But what he didn't know was that Little Ears had no intention of eating that strange mix. He just thought the smell was awful. Song Yeji told him not to worry, that she would make something for him too, but Little Ears shook his head desperately. He definitely didn't want to eat that. Kim Jin kept devouring the food. "This is the best food I've ever tasted. Thank you so much." Song Yeji replied that if he liked it, she would make it for him often from now on. Kim Jin nodded. "I could never get tired of this taste." Just as he was happily eating, the phone on the table started to ring. There was only one person who could be calling, Lee Chae. Kim Jin answered right away. On the other end, Lee Chae said he was in danger. He had chased some people from the institute, but ended up cornered and needed Kim Jin to come save him immediately. The moment Kim Jin heard the word institute, his heart sank. Son Yeji heard it too. She tried to convince Kim Jin not to go. She had a really bad feeling, but before she could say anything, Kim Jin had already said on the phone, "I'm coming, send me the location, Say Road, the innermost building of the abandoned factory." After hanging up, Kim Jin quickly shoved 2 more bites into his mouth. Lee Chae was in danger and he had to go right away. He swallowed the food hastily, not even having time to taste it. Kim Jin turned to Song Yeji and apologized. "The food you made is really delicious. It's the best thing I've ever eaten, but I don't have time right now. Sorry for making you waste your whole afternoon." With that, he was about to leave, but Song Yeji told him to wait. She wanted to go too, because she was afraid something might happen to him, but Kim Jin refused. 10 minutes later, he arrived at the abandoned factory building. The place was filled with steel. Seeing the scene, Kim Jin immediately felt that something was wrong. There were signs of a struggle, but with so much iron there, how could Lee Chae have lost? Could it be that the institute had some kind of special weapon? And the further he went, the quieter everything became. It was an eerie silence, and the traces of the fight were strangely scarce. Kim Jin's instincts were screaming. When he entered, he only knew there was a lot of iron, but he didn't expect this much. The floor was completely covered with steel plates. There was iron in every direction, to the point where he could barely see anything else. Kim Jin's mind was racing. Please let it not be the possibility I least want to see. In a place made entirely of iron like this, if Lee Chae could lose here, Kim Jin would never believe it. He forcibly suppressed that bad feeling. Lee Chae must have been defeated by some kind of secret weapon. Maybe, right now, for some reason, Lee Chae can't use his ability and is trembling in some corner, waiting to be rescued. At that moment, not far from there, a hand gently pressed against the ground. The next second, the steel rose up and transformed into several blades. Then, multiple sharp blades shot fiercely toward Kim Jin. Caught off guard, 2 of them pierced straight through his heart, and a suffocating pain exploded in his chest. Kim Jin's expression changed drastically. He had been ambushed too, but the moment he turned his head, he saw blades continuously emerging from the ground. That was Lee Chae's skill. Kim Jin's body fell heavily to the ground. In the reflection on the surface of the blades, he saw the figure of Lee Chae. Kim Jin, though, he could understand. With a trembling voice, he asked if he hadn't been captured. Lee Chae replied coldly, "As you can see." Kim Jin understood immediately. Everything he had said before was a lie. The next second, Lee Chae moved forward. His voice was icy. "You finally realized." Even through the intense pain, Kim Jin forced himself to jump away from the blades piercing his body. Lee Chae was absurdly fast. Kim Jin could barely keep up, only dodging. With a single mistake, Lee Chae landed a violent kick on. Kim Jin was set flying. Gritting his teeth, he asked, "Why are you doing this?" Lee Chae's answer was cold as iron. "I'm a metal man. My job is to capture mutants and take them back to the lab." Those words hit like thunder, and Kim Jin's mind went into shock. Lee Chae was going to send him back to hell. As Lee Chae activated his power, a blade silently rose up behind Kim Jin. Luckily, he dodged quickly, or his body would have been pierced instantly. At the same time, Lee Chae charged forward with his sword. This time, what Kim Jin felt wasn't restraint, but killing intent. He really wanted to kill him. Lee Chae had truly changed. Kim Jin grabbed a steel plate from the ground. The moment the blade came down, he barely managed to block it. Suppressing his rage, he shouted, "Wake up! Are you really gonna send me back there?" He didn't understand what had happened, but he needed an explanation. However, Lee Chae said it wasn't necessary and pressed his hand against the steel plate. A second later, 4 or 5 blades exploded out from inside the plate itself. Kim Jin cursed inwardly. What the hell happened to this bastard to make him turn out like this? All he could do was roll away and retreat desperately. Kim Jin never imagined that Lee Chae was connected to the institute, which meant he was part of a criminal organization. He grabbed a shield and a long metal rod. The next instant, he attacked Lee Chae with all his strength. But to Lee Chae, that speed was as slow as crawling. Lee Chae coldly told him not to resist. "You'll spare yourself the aid. Giving up is easier." As soon as he said that, a simple move of his blade completely deflected Kim Jin's attack. Kim Jin knew he couldn't face him there. He turned around and went. That was no longer the friend he once knew. Lee Che sneered to himself. Do you really think you can escape? His palm pressed against the ground and blades surged up in droves. When the tip of one of them was about to pierce Kim Jin's throat, he twisted his neck with all his strength and barely dodged it. He really wants to kill me. He set all this up in his place full of iron. I don't stand a chance against him. Even so, Kim Jin couldn't believe it. Lee Che really intended to turn him over to the Institute. What happened to you? Did you forget that hell? Do you want to go back there? Lee Che answered directly. That doesn't matter. Your life has nothing to do with me. That sentence completely ignited Kim Jin's fury. If it didn't matter, then he would fight with everything he had. But Kim Jin's punches and kicks still had only a limited effect. Soon after, he took another blade to the chest. However, at that very moment, Kim Jin's arm had already reached Lee Che's face. The next second, a punch landed squarely on Lee Che's nose. Lee Che was left in shock. He had already cut him so many times, but nothing seemed to count as a real wound. Over the years, Kim Jin had built up resistance through torture. The Kim Jin of today was completely different from the one in the past. He healed faster now, and had also gotten better at counterattacking the instant his wounds closed. Lee Che immediately threw several quick punches. He intended to overwhelm Kim Jin with speed so he wouldn't have time to recover. He knew very well that as long as Kim Jin's recovery was interrupted, he wouldn't be able to fight back. Impatience started to show in Lee Che's eyes because Kim Jin was no longer a target that could be easily taken down. At that moment, Kim Jin remembered the days in the lab. Back then, he was dragged in every day for experiments, and this time it was a regeneration test. The heavy doors slowly opened, and the one who came in was none other than Lee Che. Kim Jin was paralyzed. Why was he there? It turned out that the researchers wanted to observe the process of degeneration, regeneration, and recovery of a regenerative heart under the stimulus of sword skill. The test subject was Lee Che. They wanted him to use his power to cut Kim Jin. Lee Che refused immediately. Kim Jin was his friend. There was no way he would do that. But the moment he refused, his neck was shocked with electricity. Kim Jin panicked. Stop hesitating and just do it already. I can regenerate? I'll be fine. No matter what Kim Jin said, Lee Che still couldn't attack him. Kim Jin grew even more desperate. I already told you, I can't die. If you don't do this, you'll be electrocuted to death. Unable to convince him, Kim Jin could only provoke him with harsh words. Coward, stop pretending to be tough and do as you're told. Lee Che hated being called a coward more than anything, and his whole body tensed up. But Kim Jin kept provoking. All you know how to do is cut people. Compared to abilities that freeze, burn, or tear someone apart, you're way too weak, being mocked by someone even weaker than you. Lee Che could hardly believe it. Kim Jin told him not to waste time and said he'd regenerate soon. Finally, Lee Che drew his sword. Then I'll show you just how weak I really am. In the next second, Lee Che's gaze turned sharp as a blade. The moment Kim Jin met that gaze, his heart shrank. This was gonna hurt again. Then a slash struck Kim Jin. Only then did he realize he'd gone too far and provoked them past his limit. After several blows, blood began to gush violently from Kim Jin's wounds, but even so, he gritted his teeth and said it didn't hurt at all. Your attacks are too weak. After that, Kim Jin fell heavily to the ground. The experiment ended there. Lee Che looked completely exhausted. His clothes were almost soaked with blood. He looked at the wounds on Kim Jin's body, and only one feeling remained in his heart: pain. But in the next instant, Kim Jin froze. Why didn't it hurt that much? Lee Che lowered his voice and explained, "Don't move, pretend you don't know anything." Only then did Kim Jin realize that the blood that had splattered wasn't his. At the moment he attacked, Lee Che had also cut himself and let his own blood flow. Kim Jin didn't understand. He had regeneration. No matter how serious his wounds were, he could recover. Lee Che was on the verge of tears. Idiot, I know your recovery is slow, and those bastards at the Institute never give you enough energy to heal properly. Also, stop making these kinds of sacrifices. It's stupid and you're only gonna get hurt. Doing things like that between friends is weird. I don't want to see you get hurt. But that boy didn't exist anymore. The friend standing in front of him now was really trying to kill Kim Jin. He launched another attack, and Kim Jin felt as if all the blood in his body was being drained. Even so, Kim Jin pushed forward through sheer willpower. He couldn't fall there. Kim Jin threw a punch at Lee Chae, but just as the blow was about to land, Lee Chae's sword came down as well. Even so, at that moment, Kim Jin stopped his punch. He was still taking a gamble. Was Lee Chae being forced? That strike was just a test. Lee Chae grew furious. "Are you underestimating me?" he growled through clenched teeth. "Do you know how much that hurts my pride?" Before he even finished speaking, the sword struck Kim Jin. The moment it was swung, Kim Jin turned and started to run. He didn't want to fight anymore. Lee Chae ran after. "Don't run, it's useless. Today I'm turning you over to the Institute." With that, he jumped and vanished from where he was standing. What Kim Jin didn't expect was that Lee Chae would use Song Jae-hee and longer as threats. At that moment, Kim Jin completely snapped. That had crossed the line. He stopped running. In that case, today they would fight to the death. In the next instant, Lee Chae cut off Kim Jin's arm and kept provoking him. "I almost forgot. You also have that dog. It's important to you, isn't it? So if you dare to run away, none of them will survive. Every time you run, they'll pay with their lives." Before Lee Chae could finish, Kim Jin's severed arm suddenly clamped down on his jaw. Kim Jin's fingers tightened as much as possible, gradually increasing the pressure. Those words had driven Kim Jin insane. Not only had he pushed him past his limit, but he had also used his friends as a threat. There was no way Kim Jin would let him get away. The two people and the dog Lee Chae mentioned were all important to Kim Jin. He still wanted to understand what Lee Chae had gone through during those 3 years. Maybe he had his own reasons, but now Kim Jin no longer wanted to know. Because the moment Lee Chae said those words, Kim Jin started treating him as an enemy. From now on, he would destroy him. Kim Jin tore the corner of Lee Chae's mouth and began to drink his blood. The moment the blood entered his body, the outline of his severed hand began to form again. Then his hand fully regenerated. That scene left Lee Chae in shock. Before he could react, Kim Jin landed a hard blow to his abdomen. Lee Chae staggered backward. No matter how strong he was still flesh and bone. His regeneration wasn't like Kim Jin's. Kim Jin could take countless hits, but if Lee Chae took a solid blow, he could break ribs, and a few more could be fatal. Kim Jin punched him in the nose again. Lee Chae was thrown backward. All he could think was that Kim Jin's last punch had been too fast to react to. And even more terrifying, by the time Lee Chae finished getting up, Kim Jin was already behind him. Another heavy blow landed on his nose. The force was so great that it made Lee Chae roll across the floor. Lee Chae cursed inwardly. Damn it, where's this strength coming from? Could it be that Kim Jin really gets stronger by drinking blood? He didn't believe it. He immediately changed his strategy, switching the ranged attacks. He needed to regain control of the fight. Dozens of blades shot up from the ground and were fired one after another at Kim Jin, but no matter how many there were, Kim Jin always managed to dodge them with a single step. Even Lee Chae was surprised. Was he predicting where the blades would depart? What Lee Chae didn't know was that those blades didn't pose a lethal threat to Kim Jin. He could clearly sense where they would emerge from. Kim Jin's reaction speed was no longer what it used to be. His ability wasn't just regeneration. His strength, speed, reflexes, and endurance were also increasing. With each regeneration, he reached a higher level. At this rate, Lee Chae knew very well he was going to lose. He didn't want to use that move, but now he had no choice. He pressed his palm against the ground and began frantically absorbing the steel around him. Particles of iron tore through his blood vessels and organs. At the same time, his heart reacted violently, as if it were about to explode. But he couldn't worry about the cost anymore. His body began to transform in an instant. Dozens of blades grew out from his body. He completed his transformation. His entire body turned into a blade. He believed that no matter how many times Kim Jin regenerated, he wouldn't be able to break through the blades covering his body. He thought he had become invincible, but Kim Jin's speed didn't slow down. On the contrary, it increased as he charged straight ahead. So what if your body is made of blades? So what if those blades pierce through the bones of my hand? You're underestimating me way too much. I stopped being afraid of pain a long time ago. That punch made Lee Chae spit out blood instantly. The blades pierced Kim Jin's flesh, tearing his body apart. Even so, he acted as if he didn't feel a thing. But compared to the physical pain, there was something that hurt even more. His friend had betrayed him. Kim Jin threw another punch at Lee Chae's nose. It was an extremely violent blow, as if he had put all his strength into it. Because what hurts the most has never been a blade. Kim Jin would rather die at the hands of an enemy than see a friend betray him. Compared to that betrayal, Lee Chai's blades were nothing. A friend of 10 years was trying to send him back to that hell. Kim Jin's heart hurt so much he could barely breathe. He demanded to know why Lee Chae was doing this. Did their friendship mean nothing? He also wanted to know exactly what the Institute had promised him to make him change like this. No one knew that place better than Lee Chae. Lee Chae only replied, "There's no point in talking about it. I'm with the Institute now. From the beginning, I planned to sell you out to him. We can't be friends again." Those words completely enraged Kim Jin. He punched Lee Chae in the face again. Kim Jin wouldn't let him end everything with just one sentence. Today, he would make Lee Chae come to his senses. If Lee Chae had really betrayed him, then Kim Jin wanted to know exactly what he had gained from it. Even if you're making excuses, you still have to explain yourself. If you ever considered me a friend, then tell me everything. Lee Chae's eyes grew complicated. It's true. We used to be friends. Back then, when everyone was together, we were happy. But over time, people change. Now I have nothing left to say. Oh, sorry. At that moment, heavy footsteps echoed from outside. Kim Jin's heart sank. The people from the Institute had arrived. A group of fully armed men burst into the place. They turned on blinding lights that made it impossible for Kim Jin to open his eyes and ordered him to surrender immediately. Kim Jin couldn't understand how they had arrived so quickly. When he looked up, he saw a row of gun barrels pointed straight at him. If he moved even a little, they would shoot instantly. Kim Jin and Lee Chae were surrounded by 40 or 50 people. One of the armed men shouted, "Heart mutant detected, requesting reinforcements inside the factory." The moment he heard that, Kim Jin's heart started racing. It was exactly the Institute style. Back then, they wore the same uniforms and surrounded him in the same way. At that time, he couldn't die, but what came after was unimaginably cruel. Bullets piercing his body one after another. They never valued life and never treated mutants as human beings. Kim Jin knew he couldn't waste any more time. He needed to break through the encirclement immediately. He didn't even forget to pick up Lee Chae along with him, using him as a shield. He grabbed a steel pipe from the ground. A steel pipe was useless against firearms, but if he could block them for just a moment, that would be enough. The next second, Kim Jin hurled the steel pipe with all his strength. He wanted to create an opening. Then he gathered strength in his legs, getting ready to carry Lee Chae and dash out at full speed. Just moments ago, they were fighting as if one of them had to die, but Lee Chae was still his friend. After all, even if he really had tried to kill him, maybe there was still a reason he couldn't talk about. As long as they made it out alive, Kim Jin was determined to clear everything up. No matter what, he would never let his friend die there, but he had barely moved a few meters when the armed men already caught up to him. Kim Jin didn't dare stop. The moment he did, he'd be surrounded again. However, what he never expected was that the outside was already completely blocked off. As soon as he turned the corner, even more soldiers were already blocking the exit. The dark barrels of their guns were raised, all aiming squarely at Kim Jin and Lee Chae. Kim Jin's heart turned cold. With so many people, there was no way to escape easily. The pursuers behind them also closed in, forming a circle and blocking every escape route. The captain spoke, "Everyone stay alert and await orders from headquarters. If the target resists, you are authorized to open fire." He was Kim Yu from the Special Assault Unit. The situation was extremely unfavorable for Kim Jin. If this dragged on any longer, he would surely be taken back to the lab and the tragedy would repeat itself. Kim Yu turned on his communicator and began reporting the command. But at that moment, a slender hand pressed a device and took it away from him directly. "From now on, I am taking full control of this operation." That woman's status was terrifyingly high. Not even the captain of the assault unit dared to resist. Her name was Song Dae. Kim Yu's expression immediately turned stiff. Not just him, but the whole team started to break out in a cold sweat, which showed just how high her position was. No one expected Song Ye, the leader of the Special Operations Unit, to show up in person. After that, following her orders, everyone lowered their weapons. Song Ye walked toward Kim Jin step by step, and Kim Jin actually heard her say his name. She lowered her voice and told him not to be afraid. "I'm here to help you. I heard all about your situation from my younger sister." Only then did Kim Jin finally understand. The woman smiled slightly. "My name is Song Ye. I'm Song Yeji's older sister. Nice to meet you.